Hey, you all! Oh my God! It is such a pleasure to be on. I haven't been on in almost forever, face to face with you all. So, hey, shalom, greetings to the 12 tribes scattered abroad. It is a pleasure to see you all. I know I can't see you all, but you can see me. So, hearts, I love you all, and it's great to be back on. So, this video is going to be about Ayasha's Feast of Dedication adventures, which have been nothing short of amazing. I am super excited to share this journey with you all, or these adventures. But beforehand, I want us to go into the origin of the Feast of Dedication to any of our newcomers into this faith and newcomers into understanding the scriptures and following the scriptures as they speak, so that there is no confusion or no lack. I want to be able to give as much as I can to my people. I love my people. And I'm talking my people, not only of flesh, but also spirit, because we know that not all Israel is Israel. So let me go ahead and turn down my husband, Lord, and get my head covered. And then we're going to visit in the book that holds the origin of the Feast of Dedication. So I'm going to pause it and get my head covered. One moment. Oh, beforehand, I apologize about any glitching, pausing, freezing, any of that. Y'all know the internet service provider that I have here, AT&T, is not really good. I don't know why it's not good at all here. It's not good, but we're going to have to make do with what we got. So 1 second, let me get my head covered so I can come back to you all. Okay, so I am back. So we locate the origin of the Feast of Dedication in the Apocrypha. Okay? The Apocrypha is 8 books, but if you include the second book of Maccabees, it will be 9 books. So, for lack of better words, I'll say 8 books. Okay? And that's including 1st and 2nd Maccabees. So, the Apocrypha is 8 books that were removed from the Bible. So in the beginning, when the scriptures were first being written in the KJV, it did include the Apocrypha, but later on it was taken out. If you have the 1611 KJV version, and this is there's a Hendrickson edition, there are the Cambridge editions. When you turn to the Apocrypha portion, that preface page, it gives you information on when the Apocrypha or the books that make up the Apocrypha were taken out of the KJV. So I would suggest that you visit that so that you can have that information and show yourself approved with your own studies. But yes, the 8 books that are now called the Apocrypha used to also be in the Bible. And Apocrypha is also known as hidden, like the hidden books, okay? So I don't want to go too into depth with that, because there's another video that I did years ago explaining that to you all, but I don't mind later on, as the Lord wills, to do another one with more enlightenment that I have at a more seasoned spiritual age. I don't mind, but right now we're going to go into the origin of Feast of Dedication. So you find Feast of Dedication in the Apocrypha, and it's going to be located in 1st Maccabees chapter 4. Now, chapter 4 of 1st Maccabees is about 61 verses. Yes, 61 verses. But in specific, the beginning of the dedicating of the sanctuary, aka the origin of the Feast of Dedication, will begin in verse 36. So I'm going to read a couple of those verses, if not all, up into 61, so that we can get an understanding of where the Feast of Dedication comes from. So verse 36 in chapter 4 of 2nd Maccabees, located in the Apocrypha, it reads, "Then said Judas and his brethren, Behold, our enemies are discomfited," or discomfited. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I do apologize for any mispronunciation. "Let us go up to cleanse and dedicate the sanctuary." Upon this, all the host assembled themselves together and went up into Mount Sion. So just a moment. What we understand in verse 36 is that this is when our brethren, our forefathers, our forebrothers are taking the time out to go and cleanse and rededicate the sanctuary, the temple. You understand? So verse 38, it says, and when they saw the sanctuary desolate, and the altar profaned, and the gates burnt up, and shrubs growing in the courts, as in a forest, or in one of the mountains, yeah, and the priests' chambers pulled down, they rent their clothes, and made great lamentation, and cast ashes upon their heads, and fell down flat to the ground upon their faces, and blew an alarm with the trumpets, and cried towards heaven. So you got to understand that when they're going into the sanctuary, they're seeing the sanctuary destroyed. The sanctuary looking like a forest, and things that are what is the word? Hallowed, holy, set apart, are treated as though they're not. It's been profaned. So moving on into verse 41. Then Judas appointed certain men to fight against those that were in the fortress until he had cleansed the sanctuary. So he chose priests of blameless conversation, such as had pleasure in the law, who cleansed the sanctuary and bare out the defiled stones into an unclean place. And when as they consulted what to do with the altar of burnt offerings, which was profane, they thought it best to pull it down, lest it should be a reproach to them, because the heathen had defiled it. Wherefore they pulled it down and laid up the stones in the mountain of the temple in a convenient place, until there should come a prophet to shew what should be done with them. So understand that the old altar, or the original altar, was profane. There were sacrifices that were profaned, or abominable, unclean sacrifices that were being made on this altar. So they had to pull that altar down so that they're not putting something that had been profaned amongst the holy. You understand? So they didn't. What they did was they laid the stones upon the mountain, just put it to the side, basically, for lack of better words, until a prophet came along later on to let them know, hey, you actually do this with this. You see what I'm saying? And this right there, I know I'm kind of just relaying it and repeating it, but sometimes it helps. So verse 47, it says, then they took whole stones according to the law and built a new altar according to the former. So the new altar looked like the old one, and made up the sanctuary and the things that were within the temple, and hallowed the courts. They made also new holy vessels, and into the temple they brought the candlestick, and the altar of burnt offerings, and of incense, and the table. And upon the altar they burnt incense, and the lamps that were upon the candlestick they lighted, that they might give light in the temple. Furthermore, they set the loaves upon the table, and spread out the veils, and finished all the works which they had begun to make. Now on the 25th day of the 9th month, which is called the month of Caslu, in the 148th year, they rose up betimes in the morning. So they're letting you know what month they are in during the dedicating of the sanctuary, or rededication of the sanctuary. They're in the 9th Hebrew month. So that lets us know that since we are celebrating the Feast of Dedication, that we too are currently in the 9th Hebrew month, which is called Caslu or Kaslu, however you properly pronounce it. And it's also the 25th day. And it says, verse 53, and offered sacrifice according to the law upon the new altar of burnt offerings which they had made. Look at what time and what day the heathen had profaned it. Even in that was it dedicated with songs and citherns and harps and cymbals. Then all the people fell upon their faces, worshiping and praising the God of heaven, who had given them good success. And so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days, and offered burnt offerings with gladness, and sacrificed the sacrifice of deliverance and praise. So understand that this is verse 56, that the Feast of Dedication is supposed to be held for a total of 8 days on the 9th month, on the 9th Hebrew month, beginning on the 25th day of the 9th Hebrew month. For 8 days you keep the Feast of Dedication. Verse 57. Well, actually, my apologies. I wanted to touch a moment on, it says, and offered burnt offerings with gladness, and sacrificed the sacrifice of deliverance and praise. So we're not necessarily going to be, sacrificing turtle doves and, goats and lamb and things like that. But sacrifice of praise and teaching one another and helping one another to see the light and understanding of these scriptures is a great deliverance, is a great, is a great sacrifice to give unto the Lord during the Feast of Dedication. I'm excited in the spirit, so I start tripping and flipping over words. So I do apologize. I get excited about these things. Like, we are literally like descendants of the people of the book of old. Like, we're descendants from them, and we know ourselves, and we're turning back to our customs. Like, so to read this and to know that the Lord is like giving me the honor of being able to partake in this is great. So I start getting excited and tongue twisting and all kinds of things, but I'm trying my best, y'all. I'm trying my best. So just bear with me. And I do apologize, my head covering coming off too. So verse 57, it says, they decked also the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold and with shields, and the gates and the chambers they renewed and hanged doors upon them. Thus was there very great gladness among the people, for that the reproach of the heathen was put away. Moreover, Judas and his brethren with the whole congregation of Israel ordained that the days of the dedication of the altar should be kept in their season from year to year, by the space of 8 days, from the 25th day of the month Caslu, with mirth and gladness. So you want to be keeping the Feast of Dedication, or how did they say it in here? Dedication of the altar, with mirth and gladness. You want to be full of happiness. You want to be full of joy that you're being able to partake in this beauty of this custom. Like, you know who you are spiritually. You know who you are. You're not out there spiritually lost. And you doing this with gladness. Like, be thankful and celebrate this with mirth and gladness, okay? So now, verse 60. It says, at that time also they builded up the Mount Sion with high walls and strong towers round about, lest the Gentiles should come and tread it down as they had done before. And they set there a garrison to keep it, and fortified Bethsura to preserve it, that the people might have a defense against Idumea, which is also Esau. So that is First Maccabees chapter 4, beginning in verse 36 through 61, the origin of the Feast of Dedication, or the dedication of the altar. This in the world is known as Hanukkah. I don't like to necessarily say Hanukkah, only because I couldn't spell it. I would put too many K's or not enough K's. And then also, I just like how it sounds in the Bible. It just sounds more ancient and lively. So Feast of Dedication, or dedication of the altar, we keep it on the 9th Hebrew month, beginning on the 25th day of that 9th Hebrew month, for a space or a total of 8 days. Today, well, currently, I have moved into the 5th day because it's now evening. So that means it will be the 30th. It's the 30th day of the 9th Hebrew month. Okay, so we're at about 13 minutes here. What I'm going to do is actually get this one up, and then I'll resume with the Feast of Dedication adventures with you all. So I hope that you all stay tuned, and happy Feast of Dedication, or dedication of altars. Let me actually show you my altar, or my Feast of Dedication table. I super duper love it, and I'm pretty sure you can already imagine what color it is. Give me just one. So this is my Feast of Dedication table. She is absolutely beautiful. Yes, she's pink. So I have some ancient oils that my apologies. I have some ancient oils that I found in the book of Psalms, and then also the oils that Yahushua was anointed with. I have my KJV. It's listed on First Maccabees chapter 4, and it's a genuine sheepskin leather Bible. I have my shofars, my trumpet, and it's a silver trumpet. She is genuine, or he is genuine, I should say. And then I have a beautiful crown, because it was mentioned in chapter 4. And then I have the vessels. My vessels are not silver, they're glass. And then I have a very, very old KJV. This Bible is super old. I have long fingers, and you can see that it's very, very old. It's a very, very old Bible. I super duper love that Bible. But yeah, that's my Feast of Dedication table. I don't typically light the candles one by one. I just light them all. And then I was looking for some tall candles that were pink, but I couldn't find any, so I had to settle with the tea light candles, which is actually a better choice option for me, because it keeps it from, getting wasted down and looking all nasty and sloppy. Because I wanted to just look presentable for the Lord. So I hope that y'all enjoy seeing my table, and I'll go ahead and get back with you on this next video.